All right, continuing on reading the Magnus Chase, Gods of Asgard, the Hammer of Thor. And I'm on chapter 18. The title of the chapter is I Need to Learn Many, Many More Cuss Words in Sign Language. All right, I howled with rage. I slashed upwards, and the sword flew out of Randolph's grip. Along with, well, you might want to skip this part, a couple of pink things that looked like fingers. Randolph stumbled back, cradling his fist against his chest. The sword clanged to the floor. Oh, Blitzen's eyes widened. The sword had gone straight through his chain-mail vest. Blood seeped between his fingers. He stumbled. Hearthstone caught him and dragged him away from Randolph and Loki. I wheeled around on Loki. I raised Jack's blade again and sliced through the god's smug face. But his form just shimmered like a projection. He swings, he misses. Loki shook his head. Really, Magnus? We both knew you can't hurt me. I'm not fully here, don't you know that? Besides, fighting isn't your strong suit, is it, Magnus? If you need to take out your anger on someone, go ahead and kill Randolph. But do it quickly. We have a lot to talk about, and your dwarf is bleeding out. I couldn't breathe. I felt like someone was pouring pure hate right down my throat. I wanted to cut down my own uncle. I wanted to pull his tomb apart stone by stone. I want to pull this tomb apart stone by stone. Suddenly, I understood Rasky, the squirrel who spoke malice and wanted to destroy the very tree he lived in. It wasn't easy, but I pushed down the anger. Saving Blitzen was more important than getting revenge, even though I would love to hack down Randolph. Jack, I said, watch these two. If they try to hurt Sam or take the sword, go into and destroy them. You got it, Jack spoke in a deeper voice than usual, probably to impress the sword. I protected the hot lady blade with all my life. Oh, and also Sam also. I ran to Blitzen's side. That's it, Loki cheered. There's the Magnus Chase I know and love, always thinking of others, always the healer. I put my hand on Blitzen's gut. He glanced up at Hearthstone. Do you got any runes that might help? Hearth shook his head. His own Rasticky-level hatred smoldered in his eyes. I could see how desperately he wanted to do something, anything, but he already used 2 runes this morning. Any more would probably kill him. Blitzen coughed. His face turned the color of putty. I'm good, guys. Just need a minute. Hold on, Blitzen. Again, I summoned the power of Frey. My hands heated like the coils of an electric blanket, sending warmth into every cell of Blitzen's body. I slowed his circulation. I eased his pain, but the wound itself refused to heal. I felt it fighting me, tearing open tissues and capillaries faster than I could mend them, going at Blitzen with malicious hunger. I remember Hearthstone's prophecy, Blitzen, bloodshed, cannot be stopped. This was my fault. I should have seen it coming. I should have insisted that Blitzen stay in Mymar's safe house eating delivered pizza. I should have listened to that stupid Back Bay goat assassin. You're going to be fine, I said. Stay with me. Blitzen's eyes were starting to lose focus. Got sewing kit in my vest pocket, if that helps. I wanted to scream. Isn't a good thing Jack was no longer in my hands, because I would have pulled a full-on Kylo Ren temper tantrum. I rose and faced Loki and Randolph. My expression must have been pretty frightening. Randolph backed all the way to the zombie niche, leaving a trail of blood from his wounded hand. I probably could have healed that for him too, but I wasn't even tempted. Loki, what do you want? I demanded. How do I help Blitzen? The god spread his arms. I'm so glad you asked, Magnus. Happily, those two questions have the same answer. The stone, Blitzen gasped. He wants the stone. Exactly, Loki agreed. You see, Magnus, wounds from the sword never heal. That's why the sword is so special. They just keep bleeding forever, or until death, whichever comes first. The only way to close that wound is with the Shukoff, I can't say the word, Shukoff stone. Shukoff stone. That's why the two are such an important set. So remember, there was a sword and a stone when they first came into that chamber. Hearthstone launched into a bout of sign language, cursing so impressive it would have made a beautiful piece of performing art. Even if you don't know sign language, his gestures conveyed an anger better than any amount of yelling. Dear me, Loki said. I haven't been called some of those nice names my last flighting with Azure. I'm sorry you feel that way, my elvish friend, but you're the only one who can get that stone. You know, it's the only solution. You better run along home. Home? My mind moved to at the speed of cold syrup. You mean Elfheim? Blitzen groaned. Don't make Hearth go. Not worth it, kid. I glared at Uncle Randolph, who was making himself at home in his zombie niche. With his ratty suit and scarred face, his eyes glazed from pain and blood loss. Randolph was already halfway to being undead. What is Loki after? I asked him. What does any of this have to do with Thor's hammer? He gave me the same desolate expression he'd worn in my dreams. Then he turned to his family on the storm-tossed yacht and says, I'll bring us home. Magnus, I'm so sorry, Loki supplied. Yes, you're very sorry, Randolph, we know. But really, Magnus, do you not see the connection? Maybe I need to be clearer. Sometimes I forget how slow you mortals can be. A giant has the hammer. He illustrated each word with exaggerated sign language. Giant gives hammer back for Sam. We exchange gifts at wedding. Hammer for sword. Stop that, I snarled. You understand, then. Loki shook his hands out. Good, because my fingers are getting tired. Now I can't give half a bride price, can I? Thyme will never accept that. I need the blade and the stone. Fortunately, your friend Hearthstone knows exactly where the stone can be found. That's why you arranged all this. Why you... I gestured to Blitzen, who laid in his expanding pool of blood. Call it insensitive, Loki said. I wasn't sure you'd get me the stone merely for the purpose of Sam's wedding, but you'll do it to save your friend. And I remind you, this is all so I can help you get back that What's his name, stupid hammer? It's a win-win. Unless, your dwarf dies. They are small, such small, pitiful creatures. Randolph, come along now. My uncle shuffled towards Loki like a dog expecting a beating. I didn't feel much love for my uncle at the moment, but I had also hated the way Loki treated him. I remembered the connection I had to Randolph during my dreams, feeling the overwhelming grief that motivated him. Randolph, I said, you don't have to go with him. He glanced at me, and I saw how wrong I was. When he stabbed Blitzen, something inside him had broken. He'd been drawn so far into his evil bargain now, given up so much to get back his dead wife and children. He couldn't imagine any other way. Loki pointed to the sword. The sword, Randolph. Get the sword. Jack's runes pulse in angry purple. Try it, compadre, and you'll lose more than a couple fingers. Randolph hesitated, as people tend to do when they are threatened by taking glowing swords. Loki's smug confidence wavered. His eyes darkened. His scarred lips curled. I saw how badly he wanted that sword. He needed it for something much more important than a wedding gift. I put my foot over the blade. Jack's right. This isn't going anywhere. The veins in Loki's neck looked like they might explode. I was afraid he would kill Sam and paint the walls with abstract swarts of dwarf, elf, and warrior blood. I stared him down anyway. I didn't understand his plan. But I was starting to realize that he needed us alive, at least for now. In the space of a nanosecond, the god regained his composure. Fine, Magnus, he said breezily. Bring the sword and the stone with you when you bring the bride. 4 days. I'll let you know where, and do get a proper tuxedo. Randolph, come along, chop chop. My uncle winced. Loki laughed. Oh, sorry. He wiggled his pinky and ring finger. You too. He grabbed Randolph's sleeve. The two men shot backwards into the coffin portal like they were being sucked out of a moving jet plane. The sarcophagus imploded behind them. Sam stirred. She sat up abruptly, as though her alarm had gone off. Her hijab slipped over her right eye like a pirate patch. What's going on? What's happening? As Sam regained consciousness. I felt too numb to explain. I was kneeling next to Blitzen, doing what I could to keep him stable. My hands glowed with enough fray power to cause a nuclear meltdown, but it wasn't helping. My friend was slipping away. Hurst's eyes brimmed with tears. He sat next to Blitzen, his polka dot scarf trailing in blood. Every once in a while he smacked a V sign against his own forehead. Stupid, stupid. Sam's shadow fell across us. No. What happened? Hearthstone flew into another sign language triad. Told you, too dangerous. Your fault. We. Buddy, Blitz pulled weakly at Hearthstone's hand. Not Sam's fault, not yours. Was my own idea. Hearthstone shook his head. Stupid Valkyrie, stupid me. Also, must be a way to heal you. He looked at me, desperate for a miracle. I hated being a healer. Frapples. I wished I were a warrior, or a shapeshifter like Alex Farrow, or a rune caster like Hearthstone, or even a Berkster like Halfborn, charging to battle with my underwear, having my friends lives depend on my abilities. Watching the light go out of Blitzen's eyes and knowing there was nothing I could do about it, that was unbearable. Loki wouldn't leave us another choice, I said. We have to find this stone. Hearthstone grunted in frustration. I would do it for Blitzen, but no time. Would take a day at least. He will die. Blitzen tried to say something. No words came out. His head lolled sideways. No, Sam sobbed. No, he can't die. Where's this stone? I'll get it myself. I scanned the tomb, frantic for ideas, my eyes fixed on the only source of light, Sam's spear lying in dust. Light, sunlight. There was one last miracle I could try, a lame, bottom-shelf miracle, but it's all that I had. We need more time, I said. We'll make more time. I wasn't sure Blitzen was still lucid, but I squeezed his shoulder. We'll bring you back, buddy, I promise. I stood. I raised my face towards the doomed ceiling and imagined the sun overhead. I called my father, the god of warmth and fertility, the god of living things that broke through the earth to reach the light. The tomb rumbled. Dust rained down directly above me. The dome ceiling cracked like an eggshell, and a jagged canyon of sunlight spilled through the darkness, illuminating Blitzen's face. As I watched, one of my best friends in 9 worlds turned to solid rock. Interesting. So, their idea to save Blitzen is turn into stone, which will stop him from dying. See what happens with that. That was chapter 18.